Let's start talking about working with variables. And we're going to start off by talking about strongly typed versus weakly typed. Probably won't make a whole lot of sense at this point, but I'm going to mention some basics. So I'm going to double click the button 1. And these basics then will help you understand the need for it. And let's say sum is equal to 1. And then I'll say sum is equal to sum plus David. And then sum is equal to sum divided by 3.02. And then message box sum. Okay, now if I run this, click the button, it does not blow up until I actually run it. And it says conversion from string David to type double is not valid. Well, this is not good programming practice. And this is one of the original criticisms of Visual Basic, is that it was very weakly typed and had some other programming constructs that allowed you to do anything. Now here I say sum is equal to 1. Now 1 is something called an integer. We'll talk more about that. But an integer you can think of as a number without a decimal. So by assigning it to sum, we just made it an integer. But then I'm trying to add an integer to a string, which you can't do from a programming standpoint, and that's where it gave us the issue here. It says cannot convert David to double. Actually, it said this is a double instead of a integer. That's interesting. Decimals usually is what makes it a double. Double means it number with decimals. So we got a mixture of different data types here. Well, that's poor programming. And you'll find when I went to a strongly typed programming language, I didn't like it at first. Because I liked just to willy-nilly use variables without declaring them, the free form do this. I liked the complete freedom. I realized when I went to a strongly typed language, though, that it broke less. So I got less calls from the user saying, hey, this isn't working. Now, Visual Basic does allow you to set that. Under Tools and Options, if you go to Projects and Solutions, VB Defaults, you can set the option explicit to on and option strict to on. Now these will both ensure that you have to declare all of your variables and you can't willy-nilly combine different data types together. Now if I do that and I save this, you see it doesn't change anything. And so I found this frustrating because I was created this video to begin with, and it still didn't give me anything different here. And I'm sure there's some kind of option you can do to refresh it and so forth. I'm going to close this. And let me create a new solution now. And I'll drop a button on there, double click that button. Double click the button itself to go into the code, and now I'll start saying sum is equal to 3. It's got a problem. It says, hey, sum is not declared. It's got a little red squiggly underneath there, which means I have to come up here and I have to actually declare it. Say sum is an integer. Now if I do a message box sum, let's see what that gives us. I click 3. Okay. Now if I try to do something bizarre, sum is equal to sum plus David. Notice it gives me a red squiggly right here before I even get to the point where I click the start button. Because it says, hey, you're mixing an integer with a string. You know, what's going on with this? Well, there's different ways of converting this, but then I would want to convert this to an integer in order to add it to an integer. So it allows very strongly typed programming there. Now, how about if I mix in an integer with a double? 5.01. Well, 3 is an integer, and I'm trying to add 5.01, which is a double, has decimals. So what am I supposed to get? You know, because my result is I'm putting it back into sum. So am I supposed to get 8 or 8.01? So again, we have an issue here. This makes you think about it from a programming standpoint. How should I handle this? Do I need to round 5 to convert it to an integer? Do I need to truncate it? Round up, round down? You know, what exactly? Basically, out of this video, just make sure your tools, options, projects and solutions, VB defaults, set these to on and on. You'll find that you'll have less headaches in the long run because it'll develop better programming skills. It'll make you not mix items that shouldn't be mixed. And out in the workforce, you'll have less errors. You might find somebody that give you an equally convincing argument why you should freeform allows those to be anything.